It's 1965, and open field warfare generally follows a strict mathematical logic. The side with the most heavy armor typically dictates the outcome. The Pakistani army had recently demonstrated that logic, capturing the Indian town of Khemkaran and forcing the Indian defenders into a rapid retreat. This chart comparing the two forces shows the scale of the challenge. The Pakistani military was advancing with 220 battle tanks and 44 light tanks, while the Indian defenders held the line with just 45 battle tanks and 90 light to medium variants. For the soldiers on the ground, these numbers suggested that a standard head-to-head firefight would likely end in their destruction. Realizing that a conventional defense would fail, the Indian commanding officer proposed a plan that moved away from direct combat and towards spatial strategy. His approach relied on a single premise. If they could not match the enemy's firepower, they would have to change the physical behavior of the terrain itself. The reaction among the troops was mixed. While a few saw the logic in the gamble, many others believed the plan offered little more than a slightly different way to die. That sense of desperation eventually committed the force to the plan, turning the landscape itself into their primary defensive tool. This top-down map shows Khemkaran, a town centered in flat fields. Instead of a straight line, the Indian forces fell back, creating a horseshoe perimeter. Positioned at the open end, the surrendered town served as the focal point. This geometry limits the effectiveness of a standard flanking maneuver, leaving only one clear path forward, staring the enemy into a vector where the defenders are already waiting on three sides. Once the perimeter was set, the troops moved out under darkness to prepare the ground. They located the local irrigation systems and began systematically breaching them. Thousands of gallons of water flooded the fields overnight. The liquid seeped into the dry topsoil, turning the hard ground into a thick, unstable muck. By morning, the standing water had largely settled or drained away. To an approaching observer, the bog looked like the same solid, dry ground they had been driving on for miles. To trigger the trap, the Indian forces deliberately revealed their positions, baiting the Pakistani armored division into a full-speed charge. The fleet moved in immediately. Over 200 tanks accelerated toward what they believed was stable ground at the center of the horseshoe. By drawing them in this way, the defenders used the Pakistani army's momentum against them, letting the weight of the tanks do the work of the defense. The moment the heavy battle tanks hit the saturated soil, their weight became a liability. The tracks churned the mud into a slurry, and the machines sank to their hulls, losing all forward momentum. Immobilized in this hidden bog, the tanks were trapped in the crossfire of the horseshoe perimeter. This data tally shows the resulting lopsided victory. Pakistan lost over 100 tanks to destruction or capture, while India reported losing only 10. The surviving forces were left in a state of tactical paralysis. Despite their superior numbers, they were physically pinned in place, unable to advance or effectively regroup. The battle demonstrated that tactical superiority isn't always about the count of heavy armor. It can come from understanding the environment well enough to turn an enemy's weight and momentum into their primary weakness.